Yeah, welcome back, guys. Now let's talk about the function of each of these blood cells. But before that, just a quick recap with the chart alone so we can understand better. Yeah, so we have the hemocytoblast, hemocytoblast. And we said the hemocytoblast can either divide into a what? Into a myeloid stem cell. Can divide into a what? The myeloid stem cell. Let me put the myeloid ahead. So I would like to put the myeloid around here. So the myeloid stem cells. Myeloid stem cells. And it can also divide into what? Another cell called the lymphoid stem cells. Good. Now, we said this lymphoid stem cell, it can form the lymphocyte. And to form the lymphocyte, it has to pass through what? This stage. The point is from here, it divides to blastic level. So at the blastic level, you call these guys the what? The lymphoblast. Lymphoblast. And then when it further divides, it can become another cell called the what? Pro-lymphocyte. Pro-lymphocyte. And finally it can become the what? It can become the lymphocyte itself now. Lymphocyte. Cool. Now, what next? Talking about the myeloid stem cell. Now, the myeloid stem cell can divide to form a what? After the lymphoblast, we have the monocyte. The lymphocyte. We have the monocyte under the what? Under the agranulocyte. So let's talk about the monocyte next. To form the monocyte, it will firstly divide into a cell. And this cell is called what? It's called the monoblast. Monoblast. And later the monoblast will transform to become another cell. And that other cell is what? That is, you have dashed blast, you have procyte next. Monocyte. And from there it becomes what? A cell called the monocyte itself. So, monocyte. It becomes the monocyte at last. Now, after that, what next? Another thing that this guy can form are the what? The granulocytes generally. So, if you want to form the granulocyte, the myeloid stem cell will divide into a cell first. And we said that cell is called the what? It's called the myeloblast. So, myeloblast. And from the myeloblastic level, it divides to form three cells. The first one is called the what? The first one is called the basophilic promyelocyte. Basophilic promyelocyte. And then it can also divide to become eosinophilic promyelocyte. Eosinophilic promyelocyte. And finally, it can also become the what? The neutrophilic promyelocyte. So, neutrophilic promyelocyte. Cool. Now, after that, what next? Just from the procyte level, they're going to become what? This guy now will become the basophil itself, or basophilic myelocyte rather. So, basophilic myelocyte. I don't want this to be too big. So, apologies, guys. So, it becomes the basophilic myelocyte. So, it becomes basophilic myelocyte. And this next one, this guy right here, will become eosinophilic myelocyte. And finally the blue one will become the basophilic myelocyte. Sorry, neutrophilic, apologies guys. Neutrophilic myelocyte. Yes, apologies for the confusion actually. So after that, the basophilic myelocyte will become the normal cell which it is meant to be, and that is the basophil itself. Basophil. This guy now will become what? Eosinophil. 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 And neutrophil will become the what? Neutrophilic myelocyte will become the neutrophil itself. Neutrophil. Now, that is it. We have one more cell to talk about, and that is our what? Our platelet. We talked about it initially, remember? So the point is the platelet now. The myelin stem cell can also divide to form the what? The megakaryoblast. That big cell. We call it the what? Megakaryoblast. And from there, it's going to transform to become what? Pro-megakaryocytes. Pro-megakaryocyte. And finally, it's going to become the megakaryocyte itself. A very large cell. Megakaryocytes. Cool. Now, after all this, what do you need to know? Yeah, apologies, guys. So, quickly attended to some things right there. Now, back to what we're discussing. After all this chat, what next? The next thing is for you to know the function of each and every of these guys. Now, to understand that, let's assume that this is the bloodstream. So, let's assume that everything we have right here is the bloodstream. Now, here is the bloodstream, guys. Now, the point is, when monocytes, when they migrate into the bloodstream, what is their fate? What becomes of them? Monocytes, they used to transform into a large cell called macrophage. Macro what? Macrophage. Good. And the point is, what is the function of macrophage? The function of macrophage is to engulf pathogen. They swallow pathogens up. So their main function is to prevent infection as well. By killing what? By killing pathogens or harmful things in our body. Now, what next? These macrophage, you can find them in different body parts. When monocytes, when they migrate to somewhere like the brain, they become a macrophage called microglia cells. Microglia what? Microglia cells. And apart from that, if they go to somewhere like the lungs, so if they go to the lungs, they become a cell called the alveolar cells. Alveolar macrophages. Let's say that. Alveolar macrophages. Macrophages. And when they go to another part of the body, let's say somewhere like the bones. Inside the bones, the monocyte, they change to something called the osteoclast. Osteoclast. So if they go to some other places in the body, like, let's say the liver, inside the liver, they become a cell called the Kupffer cells. Kupffer's cell. So, and so on and so forth. So when they go to different body parts, they become different organs. So if they come to somewhere like the skin now, if they come to somewhere like the skin, you can turn into the what? Langerhans cells. Langerhans cell. All those things are macrophages. All these guys you are looking at, they are macrophages of the body. Now, what next? What about this basophil? When they find themselves inside the what? Inside the blood, what do? Basophil has mainly two chemicals. It has more actually. One is called heparin, and the other one is called histamine. So these guys can release heparin and histamine. And the question is, what is the function of heparin? Heparin has been known to be an anticoagulant, so which prevents blood clots. So you can actually relate that to the function of what? Of basophil. But mainly, its function is an histamine, which is what? Promotion of inflammation. Promotion of inflammation. And now I think I do not have to be telling you that inflammation is actually something positive and not something negative. So, down aside. So the next thing is when neutrophil now, when they find their way into the what? Into the bloodstream, what do you think they do? Neutrophils, the main thing that they do is to kill parasites and fight worms. Kill what? Parasites. So they fight things like worms. So they kill worms. So they have more function. Even neutrophils, they are always willing to sacrifice themselves. As in, they are ready to die for us. How? I won't be explaining that. We'll talk about that in some other disease condition. Talking about oxidative bursts. It's actually a process where neutrophil picks up the oxygen, turns to superoxide, divide it into hydroxide and hypochlorous. So the point is, they use it to burst the cell to kill it. But leave that aside for now. Now, talking about the what? The next thing here, megakaryocyte. What is the function of the megakaryocyte? We know they form the platelets later. But the point is, this cell is too large. When it is trying to pass through this place, it has to squeeze itself through. It has to squeeze itself through the capillary beds. Into the what? Into the what? Through the capillary pores, rather, into the bloodstream. And the process whereby this big cell is trying to chunk, as in to try to use something called the appendices to flow through the what? To squeeze itself through the what? Through this pore. So the point is, it gets busted. So as it's trying to squeeze itself into that hole, it gets what? Like busted. So the point is that when it bursts, it becomes smaller cells. And those smaller cells are called platelets. And we all know the function of platelets. The function of platelets is what? Is blood clotting. They help to clot our what? Our blood. So they prevent blood loss generally. So blood double O, so blood clotting. Now, the next thing, blood clotting actually. Blood clotting. Now, the next thing we have here is what? Is a lymphocyte. So what is the function of the lymphocyte? Mainly, the lymphocyte will become two cells. One used to live in the bone marrow, other used to live in the thymus. Leave that alone. Check our video on the lymphatic system on that. Now, for lymphocytes, it can become what? It can become a B cell. A B what? A B cell. Or it becomes a what? A T cell. So they can also be called the B lymphocyte and the T lymphocyte. Now, when lymphocytes get into the bloodstream, what do they do? Later in life, this B cell is going to get matured. It's going to maturate to become a new cell called the plasma cells. The plasma what? Plasma cells. And that is a fact for you to hold. Plasma cells has nothing to do with the what? With the plasma of the blood. Plasma cell is a what? Is a matured form of what? Of the B cell. When the B cell keeps on developing, it later becomes the plasma cells. Now, what is the function of that plasma cell? The function of the plasma cell in the blood is to form antibodies. They form what? They form antibodies. Formation of antibodies. And you should know the function of antibodies. From the word anti, against, bodies. They are against some kind of foreign bodies coming into our body. So if an infection is coming, antibodies can be useful in marking them and killing them. So antibodies help to fight against what? Things like antigens. So antigen is what? Is a foreign body. Though a big concept, antigen and antibody, we find the time to deal with it some other time. So that one aside, guys. Now, what about the T cell? Talking about the T cells, talking about the what? The T cell. The T cell can divide into mainly T cells, even more than that in some other textbooks. We have more definitions for the T cells. But mainly, we have something called the T helper cell. They can divide into what? The T helper cell. And they can also divide into what? The T killer cell. No, let me call it cytotoxic cell. Cytotoxic cells. Now, what is the function of the T helper cell? One of the main functions of the T helper cells is to help, from its name, it helps the B cell to become the what? To become the plasma cell. So the T helper cell can help the what? The B cells to become the what? To become the what? The plasma cells. Which means the function, why the B cell is turning to what? To a plasma cell, it is being aided by the what? By the T helper cell. Now, if that be the case, what is the function of what? Of the T cell? Oh, sorry, of the cytotoxic T cell. The cytotoxic T cells, one of their main function is to actually destroy the infected cell of the body. And as well, in some cases, they fight pathogens as well. So the point is, they aid in apoptosis. Apoptosis means a programmed cell death. You will be understanding all these things later. So, apoptosis. As simple as that, guys. So, those are the functions of what? Of all these blood cells that we have here. Now, after that, what next? Having a great knowledge of the white blood cell, at least up until this level, will assist us to move or proceed to the next topic, which is what? Leukemia. So, before the week runs out, we are going to finish leukemia by God's grace. And according to my plan, I think we should be going into research. But if you have a better choice, just let me know. So until next time, guys, I wish you the very best.